The phone never rings. Not because they forgot about you. Not because the world is unfair. It stays silent because the rescue you keep expecting was never on its way. And strange as it sounds, that might become the best news you've heard in years. Stay with that thought, because before this is over, the sentence that feels the heaviest right now will become the one that finally takes the weight off your shoulders. Most people spend years waiting without realizing they're waiting. Waiting for someone to notice how hard they're trying. Waiting for the perfect opportunity. Waiting for confidence to magically show up one morning. Waiting for a mentor to appear. For the right connection, for the lucky break. For one message that changes everything. Life keeps moving. They're still standing in the same place. Maybe that's where you are right now. Not because you're lazy. Not because you don't care. You've just been quietly believing that sooner or later, something outside of you will arrive and pull your life in the right direction. A better job. A better relationship. A better version of yourself. One day. Always one day. The strange thing is that waiting doesn't even feel dangerous. It feels reasonable. It feels patient. It even feels responsible. You tell yourself you're preparing. You're thinking. You're getting ready. Months pass. Then years. And nothing really changes except the excuses become more convincing. Here's what nobody tells you. Hope can become a hiding place. Not hope that pushes you forward. That's different. The kind of hope that whispers, just wait a little longer. Someone will notice. Something will happen. That voice sounds comforting. It's also expensive. Because every day you wait for permission is another day your own life sits on hold. Look around. How many people are living inside tomorrow instead of today? I'll start when I have more money. I'll start when people support me. I'll start when I stop feeling afraid. But fear doesn't disappear because time passed. Confidence doesn't arrive first. Action does. Still, most people keep waiting for the opposite. Maybe you've waited for your parents to finally understand your dream. Maybe you've waited for friends to believe in you before believing in yourself. Maybe you've waited for your boss to recognize your effort. Or maybe you've been refreshing your screen, hoping one post goes viral, hoping one lucky moment changes everything. Nothing wrong with wanting those things. The problem begins when your entire future depends on them. Because now your life belongs to someone else's decision, someone else's timing, someone else's attention. That's a dangerous place to live. Imagine standing outside a locked door for 10 years. Every morning you knock. Every night you leave disappointed. One day, exhausted. You finally turn around and notice there was another door 5 steps away the whole time. It was never locked. You just never looked because you were too busy waiting for the first one to open. That's what waiting does. It narrows your vision until the only future you can imagine depends on someone else. There's another future. But you can't see it while you're staring at the wrong door. Here's something uncomfortable. No one wakes up thinking, I'm going to waste my potential. It happens quietly. One delayed decision at a time. One excuse that sounds logical. One more week. One more month. One more year. Eventually you don't even remember what you were waiting for. Only that you've been waiting for a very long time. And deep down, you know it. That feeling in your chest when another birthday passes. When another Monday looks exactly like the last one. When you watch someone else doing the thing you kept telling yourself you'd do eventually. That feeling isn't failure. It's friction. The friction between the life you're living and the life you already know. You're capable of building. The hardest part isn't admitting you're stuck. The hardest part is admitting you've been expecting someone else to pull you out. Not because you're weak, because that's what we're taught. Work hard, and someone will reward you. Be patient, and someone will choose you. Stay quiet, and someone will recognize your value. Sometimes that happens. Most of the time, it doesn't. And that's where people break. Or that's where they finally become free. There's a moment that changes everything. It doesn't come with applause. No dramatic music. No perfect timing. Just one quiet realization that almost nobody talks about. The moment you stop looking over your shoulder for footsteps that were never coming, because the second that truth really sinks in, something unexpected begins to happen. And it's probably the opposite of what you're expecting. That's where everything changes. But first, you have to understand why the absence of rescue isn't a tragedy. It's the first real taste of freedom, so here it is. The truth nobody printed on a motivational poster, the moment help stops coming, is the same moment your own hands finally start moving. Not because you're suddenly braver, not because life got easier, but because you ran out of other options to blame. Think about it. As long as rescue feels possible, you'll keep half living. One foot in your own life, one foot pointed toward the door. Waiting for someone to walk through it and hand you permission, but permission was never coming. Not because you didn't deserve it, because it was never anyone else's to give. There's a strange kind of relief hiding inside that sentence. Read it again. If no one is coming to save you, then no one can stop you either. No more waiting for the right people to notice. No more waiting for approval that keeps getting postponed. No more checking if the world is ready for you. The world was never going to send a formal invitation. It doesn't work that way. It never did. Somewhere right now, someone is building the exact life you keep postponing. Not because they're smarter, not because they got lucky, because at some point they simply stopped waiting for the knock on the door and opened one themselves. That's the entire secret. Not motivation, not some hidden trick. Just movement on a day nobody was watching when nobody promised it would work. Here's what changes once you accept this. You stop asking, when will things get better? And start asking, what can I do today that moves this forward? Small, unremarkable, unglamorous. One page written, one email sent, one skill practiced for 20 minutes, one conversation you kept avoiding. None of it feels historic in the moment. That's exactly why most people skip it. They're waiting for the version of progress that feels cinematic. Real progress rarely does. It looks boring from the outside. It looks like showing up on a Tuesday when nothing dramatic is happening. It looks like doing the work without applause, without proof it's working yet, without anyone checking in to see if you kept going. That's the part people underestimate. Discipline without an audience. Effort without guarantees, because here's the uncomfortable part. You might do everything right and still not see results this month. Or this year. That's not failure. That's the price of building something real instead of waiting for something easy. Consider this. Every person you admire, every story that looks effortless from a distance, had a version of themselves standing exactly where you're standing now, unseen, unsupported, uncertain if any of it would work. The difference wasn't talent. It wasn't timing. It was the decision to keep moving without proof that movement would pay off. That decision is available to you right now, not tomorrow, not when you feel ready. Now, picture that locked door again, the one you spent years knocking on. Turn around. The other door isn't locked. It never was. But it also won't open itself. You have to walk toward it, knowing there's no guarantee, no map, no one clapping when you get there. That's not a punishment. That's the only kind of freedom that actually holds weight. Because the version of you that waits for rescue stays small, cautious, comfortable in complaint. But the version of you that stops waiting, that version builds something no one can take credit for but you. So the next time the phone doesn't ring, the next time no one reaches out, no one notices, no one shows up to save the day. Let that be the signal. Not a tragedy, a starting line. Because the moment you stop expecting someone else to move, first is the exact moment your life finally starts moving. There's one more thing nobody tells you about this moment. Once you stop waiting, it doesn't get easier right away. It gets quieter. No fireworks. No sudden clarity. Just you and the work and a silence where the excuses used to live. That silence feels strange at first. Almost uncomfortable. Because for years, waiting gave you something to hold on to. A reason. A story. Something to explain why things hadn't changed yet. Now that story is gone, and what's left is just you, your hands, your choices, your next move. That's terrifying for about a week. then something shifts. You start noticing things you never noticed before. How much time you actually have when you stop spending it on waiting. How much energy returns when you're not exhausting yourself hoping for permission. How much clearer everything looks once you stop staring at a door that was never going to open. This is the part most people never reach. Not because it's impossible, because it's unglamorous. There's no moment where a crowd cheers for you sending one email. Number one applauds you, waking up early for the 10th day in a row when nobody's counting. No one sees the version of you that kept going after the first 3 attempts led nowhere. But that's exactly where it's built, not in the highlight reel. In the part nobody records, somewhere down the line, someone will look at your life and call it luck. They'll say you were in the right place. They'll say things just worked out. They won't see the year you stopped waiting for someone to notice you. They won't see the mornings you showed up with no proof it would matter. They won't see the silence you sat in order to build something real. That's fine. You don't need them to see it. You just need to keep walking through the door you found. So here's the only question that matters now. Not when will things get easier? Not when will someone finally notice. Just this. What's the one thing you've been waiting for permission to start? Because the permission was never coming. It was never anyone else's to give. It was always yours. So stop checking the phone. Stop watching the door that never opens. Turn around. Walk toward the one that does. Today, not when you feel ready. Today, because the moment you stop waiting to be rescued is the moment you finally start living the life you were always capable of building.